4-0. BTR muna tayo.
Okay.
Last 3-0. Ingot yun ba? Last 10. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I had a chance to, istorya noon sa mga komunista. Kaibigan ko sila. Until now. Pero noon, boto lang ako. Eleksyon eh. Pagka-eleksyon, paski sino, basta makaboto, makuha ka ng boto, okay. Noon yun, hindi kami nagkulang sa gobyerno. Tsaka, sabihin mo sa mga kasama mo, ninyo, I'm ready to talk to them. Kung kailangan magpunta ako sa kanila, magpunta ako sa kanila. Wala ang problema. Patayin ninyo ako, ano ang makuha ninyo? What do you reap? Nothing. Pag-ilit ng lalo ang gobyerno, pinatay ang presidente. Kaya ako mag-akit ako, sige. Kung patayin ninyo ako, hindi ko na problema. Pag namatay ako, wala na akong problema. Tapos na. Kayo ang maiwan ang magkaroon ng sakit ng ulo.
Almost 2 weeks after President Duterte ordered state forces to ignore human rights, the chief executive renews his calls to kill armed rebels.
Kaya sabi ko sa military, patayin mo. Pag naghawak ng baril dyan, rebelde na yan, ayaw kong makita ang sundalo ko na sa kabao. Sila ang gusto kong makita na nakalantad dyan, patay.
The president also took time to lash out at his critics, especially Senator Laila de Lima.
She is the only na napaniwala niya ang mundo na she is a prisoner of conscience.
Despite the death of a healthcare worker who had received Sinovac shot, the health department insists there's no reason to stop inoculations. Malacanang rejects the private sector's request to purchase COVID-19 jabs directly from manufacturers. And Hollywood celebrities speak up against racially motivated hate crimes following the Georgia spa shootings. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your day. I'm Riza Diaz. We start off today's newscast with President Rodrigo Duterte reiterating orders for the military to kill armed rebels during encounters. In a speech last night, the chief executive said he'd rather see communist fighters dead than mourn his own soldiers. Duterte also addressed NPA fighters and warned them that they don't stand a chance against government forces.
Hindi naman talaga ninyo kaya ang gobyerno. Not in a million years of fighting. Kaya sabi ko sa military, patayin mo. Pag naghawak ng baril dyan, rebelde na yan, ayaw kong makita ang sundalo ko na sa kabao. Sila ang gusto kong makita na nakalantad dyan, patay.
The president also said he was once a supporter of the communist movement and their goals of giving land to the landless. But Duterte said he eventually realized that communism is not the way to go. He further claimed that the local insurgency is now made up of bandits who have no means of achieving the grand goals of the communist movement.
The communists has not achieved anything at all. At ang pinagpahirapan nila, the persons that they are trying to protect they are the oppressed sa bukid. Noong nakikinig kami kay Season, wala man akong nakitang progress. Akala namin revolution, hindi naman kaya. Wala namang nangyari sa buhay sa Pilipino kung hindi patayan.
But communists are not the only people on Duterte's shoot to kill list. He is likewise urging drug dealers to shift careers or prepare to die. The president said he will not be faced by human rights groups criticizing his bloody drug war. He even urged human rights advocates to also think about the lives destroyed by drug peddlers. This despite the fact that human rights laws were written to protect civilians from state-sponsored violence and not from crimes committed by fellow civilians.
Yan ang problema sa human rights. You see, there are two sides of the coin. Nandyan ang likod niyan. Bakit ito mga namatay? Dahil sa ginawa niya nito. Sinong pumatay? Ay, ewan ko. Hindi ako yan.
Recall that an ICC probe into this administration's war on drugs is already underway, despite the president's unilateral withdrawal of the country's membership in the court. But Duterte insists that he has no plans of recognizing the mandate of the ICC.
Pati ako idemanda nila yung International Court of Justice nandoon sa Hague. It's in Europe. Ngayon, gusto nila ako magharap doon. Magharap ako ng korte na judge Pilipino. Hindi mo ako magharap doon sa mga animal na yun. Wala naman akong, sabi ko, not in a million years.
President Duterte also did not spare detained Senator Laila de Lima during his latest speech. Duterte called de Lima names and did not stop to accuse the senator of doing dirty deeds inside the detention facility.
Si JB, si JB Sebastian ba yun? Yung isang lover ni de Lima. Ay, yung pinapasok niya yung kubol. Hindi maglabas ng 3 oras. Tapos ngayon, she is the only na napaniwala niya ang mundo na she is a prisoner of conscience.
But the Liberal Party senator was having none of it. In a tweet, de Lima pointed out that there are more important things to think about, but the president somehow chooses to direct his energy at her. De Lima added that, quote, incompetent people will always call you names to supposedly steer the public away from their failures. The government's vaccination program will proceed as planned. This, as health experts insist that the death of a healthcare worker due to COVID-19 has nothing to do with her vaccination. Greg Gregorio with the details.
Despite the incident of a vaccinated health worker dying of COVID-19, the health department sees no reason to suspend a nationwide rollout of vaccines. Officials stress the death of a 47-year-old female healthcare worker had nothing to do with the jab.
There's no changes in our protocol. And also, if you will look at any other country in the world, we don't do testing prior to vaccination.
On February 22, the healthcare worker tested positive for COVID-19, then tested negative a day after. The Committee on Adverse Effects said the positive result may be due to a remnant of the patient's previous COVID-19 infection. Under current protocols, those who tested positive for the virus may only be inoculated 90 days after their recovery. This is so that the natural antibody would die down, ensuring efficacy of the shots. More than a week later, she received her first dose of CoronaVac. She was vaccinated despite her medical conditions, including hypertension, diabetes, and bronchial asthma. This is because she was not under any medication and her blood pressure was also stable. She did not exhibit any symptoms during the day of vaccination. However, she manifested symptoms on the days that followed, and on March 8, she tested positive for COVID-19. She earlier refused to be admitted to a hospital, but on March 10, she was confined due to her condition. 3 days later, she succumbed to the disease. NAFIC Vice Chair Dr. Romel Lobo explains that a virus has an incubation period.
To develop the symptoms after vaccination. The exposure would have is responsible for this. The COVID-19 virus could be responsible for all the symptoms and could have explained all the manifestations that the patient had.
FDA Director General Eric Domingo also explained that the body is still developing the antibodies needed to fight the virus after the first jab.
During the first few weeks after you're injected with the vaccine, you have no protection. If this is the time that your immune system is trying to develop.
Full protection from the virus only comes after the second dose, says DOH Technical Advisory Group member Dr. Edsa Silvania in an interview with Radyo 5. NAFIC also clarified that vaccines cannot cause an infection as these use dead virus. The FDA said they have notified Sinovac about the case. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Malacanang has rejected the private sector's plea to allow them to directly purchase vaccines from manufacturers. JC Cosico will tell us why.
For almost 2 weeks now, the country's vaccine stockpile remains at 1.1 million doses. The government is expecting some 2 million doses more by month's end, a combination of Sinovac and AstraZeneca shots. But the private sector wants to speed up the process. This as they seek the vaccination of economic frontliners.
The government is disadvantaged also in ordering because we cannot make down payments, no? We have been borrowing money, and so we are at the tail end of the orders.
In an interview with One News, Philippine Chamber of Commerce Honorary Chairman Sergio Ortiz Luis says the sector wants to directly procure shots and do away with tripartite deals with the national government. He says this will quicken negotiations, especially with counterpart pharmaceutical companies. Not to mention, the move will save the government some money.
Anything that the private sector and LGUs import will be a saving. So I think it behooves the government to really make it easy for the private sector to be able to import the requirements of their people.
Ortiz Luis said this will also help them vaccinate employees who are way below the government's priority list. Former Health Chief Esperanza Cabral tells 1PH that she supports the move.
Ang aking prinsipyo dyan ay kung sino ang makakagawa ng mas mahusay at mas mabilis na pag-aangkat at pagbibigay ng bakuna, ayun ang dapat gumawa.
But as for Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, the private sector only has to wait a little longer. He tells Totoo Lang that the workforce may be inoculated by the third quarter, just in time for arrival of vaccines through tripartite agreements.
Dapat within the second quarter, which is April, May, and June, and nandun na tayo sa senior citizens plus essential workers and some of our, or nakapag-umpisa na tayo sa indigent population. Para pagdating po ng karamihan ng mga doses na pre-promised through the tripartite agreement, with the LGUs, with the private sector, sa third quarter.
The palace tells the private sector, stick with tripartite deals.
Allowed po mag-import ang mga private sector. Kaya nga lang po sa pamamaraan ng tripartite agreement. Hindi po gobyerno nag-i-insist on the tripartite agreement. Sa mulat-mula po, hindi po natin pinipigilan ng private sector, pero gustuhin man nila, they cannot go to a manufacturer and purchase on their own.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque also reiterates that vaccines are not yet approved for commercial use. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Stop Asian hate. That's the resounding call from some of Hollywood's biggest stars following the rising spate of attacks against Asians and Asian Americans in the U.S. MJ Marfori has the story.
Many celebrities of Asian descent took to social media to condemn the Georgia spa shootings, posting reports about the incident. Lost actor Daniel Day Kim on Instagram quoted Martin Luther King Jr. in his caption, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." He urged followers to speak up with the hashtag Stop Asian Hate and Enough is Enough. Crazy Rich Asian star Gemma Chan likewise shared articles on Instagram and asked to stop the dehumanization of Asians. To All the Boys actress Lara Condor on Twitter urged followers to wake up, check in on, and stand with Asians. Several Westerners also called for unity and a stop to Asian hate, including host Ellen DeGeneres, singer John Legend, and Hamilton star Lin-Manuel Miranda. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 10 in the morning as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.